I love basketball, so the NBA playoffs is one of my favorite times of year. I love watching these great players, these great teams playing against each other. For me, for my money, the perfect team was the 2004 Detroit Pistons. Now, they weren't the best team ever. That's probably the 90s Bulls, maybe those Warriors from a few years ago. You could even put LeBron's Heat in that conversation, or the Celtics way back in the day, or Kobe and Shaq's Lakers. A lot of teams that were better than these 04 Pistons. But the 04 Pistons I call the perfect team because they played team basketball perfectly. They perfectly encapsulated what it meant to be a team. This team did not have a lot of superstars. I think they ended up 4, if not all 5 of their starters eventually ended up in all-star games at different points, but they didn't have these big superstars, right? They were the early 2000s, so they were going up against Tim Duncan Spurs and Kobe and Shaq and the Lakers. In fact, that 2004 year when they won the championship, the Lakers were stacked. They had Kobe, Shaq, Karl Malone, and Gary Payton came over to kind of end their careers ring chasing a little bit. But the Pistons beat them in the championship. It wasn't that superstar-laden Lakers team that won the championship. It was these Pistons who, honestly, especially at that point, didn't have a lot of hype about them. There wasn't a big named superstar. Like, I remember having conversations with people about, like, okay, who is the guy on this team? Who is the guy? Who is the one on this team? Especially in NBA, it's superstar dominated, right? But I'm naming these teams: LeBron's Heat, Jordan's Bulls, Curry's Warriors, and obviously they had a couple other guys there too on all those teams that made them. But it's such a star-driven league. And superstars come together, and in the playoffs especially, it's about the stars, and that's who people want to see, and that's who, they talk about an individual player elevating a team. In the NBA, one player can make that big of a difference. But I love this 2004 Pistons team because people couldn't really tell you who the guy was, right? They had big shot Chauncey Billups at point guard, Rip Hamilton at the 2 guard, who I'm a big fan of. I wish the Wolves would have drafted him instead of Wally Szczerbiak. Rasheed Wallace at the 4, Ben Wallace at the 5, and Tayshaun Prince at the 3. They wasn't superstars, but everybody on that team knew their role and played their role well. Chauncey Billups was a point guard. He was a true pass-first point guard who could set up an offense, who could control the tempo of the game. Honestly, that's the kind of point guard that I want. I know there's a lot of scoring point guards these days that people are excited about, but I want a point guard that can calm things down when they need to be and push the pace when it needs to be. A point guard that's truly in control. Best example of this today is CP3, and look what he's done. Oklahoma City was way better than they should have been last year, and then what he did with the Suns this year, even if his injury might knock him out of the playoffs. But he was a true point guard that ran the offense, that kept the tempo. Rip Hamilton was a great 2 guard that didn't try to over dribble, didn't try to take the point guard position away from Chauncey. He let Chauncey be the point and set things up, and he scored. He was a true shooting guard. He could shoot, right? And then you had Tayshaun Prince, who was the perfect 3 defender, a 3-and-D kind of guy who could hit threes from the corner, but also had the length. Best defender on that team. Actually, maybe not, because Ben Wallace was too, but a great perimeter defender, one of the best perimeter defenders in the league at the time. And then he could hit open shots. And then you had Rasheed Wallace at the 4, who played the 4 position well. He could rebound, he could defend, he could shoot a little bit, maybe not like a modern 4, but he could play in the post like 4s did at the time, but could also stretch the defense a little bit by shooting a little bit outside of the paint. And then you had Ben Wallace, who had no desire, didn't need to score, didn't care, just mean, bad man down low, and just could defend like nobody's business, rebound, did all the dirty work, just a typical 5 that you don't see in the league. There are not tough guys like Ben Wallace in the league anymore. I tell you what, if he was in the league right now, everybody would be afraid of him. But he knew his role. He wasn't trying to do too much. He wasn't shooting threes. He wasn't trying to over dribble or anything. They all knew their roles, and they all played their roles well. They all defended their positions. They played their positions. They played it well. I love that type of basketball, and I love in sports when you can do that. Basketball right now is the positionless basketball, right? Like they want guys that are long, they want guys that can shoot. They really don't care if they fit into a position. But I think the best way to win, and I think those Pistons prove it, is to have guys really good at their position. So in your life, God has created you and called you for a specific position in life. He has a purpose and a plan for you, and you need to worry about your plan and about his plan for your life and your position and what you're supposed to do, and not try to be someone else. If you're a defensive, rebounding, mean center, play that position. Don't try to be a point guard. Don't try to be a shooting guard. If you're a shooting guard, don't try to be a point guard and over dribble when you have a guy who's positioned to do that. When we all in our lives do what we're supposed to do to the best of our ability, that's when we'll have the most success. That's when our team will succeed. Whatever that team is, your family, your job, your church body, whatever that looks like, when you play your position right, your team will succeed. So stop trying to play somebody else's position. Stop trying to do more than you're supposed to, and definitely don't do less than you're supposed to. Play your position to the best of your ability, and absolutely, we all have to play the best we can, but that's how you win. That's why that 04 Pistons team was able to beat that Lakers team with all their superstars, because they had these superstars, but just because their individuals were better, their team wasn't better. And everybody thought that those Lakers were going to absolutely just run through the Pistons. They beat my Wolves in the Western Conference Finals, and they were going to just run through the Pistons. Everybody knew it. Karl Malone was going to get his ring. Gary Payton was going to get his ring. Kobe and Shaq would get their 4th rings in a row. It was a done deal. But that Pistons team, not taking anything away from their talent, because they were talented, they were good, but they didn't have the superstars. They just knew their positions and they played it well. So what you need to do is find out what God's calling you to do in life, and especially just in this season right now, and learn your position and play your position. Do what God's called you to do to the best of your ability. And that's the way that we all have success. God's not asking you to do anything crazy. God's not asking you to do somebody else's job. All he's asking you to do is to play your position and play it well. Hey, thanks for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, can you do 3 things for me? Can you like this video, subscribe to my channel, and tell your friends?